Hello, bookworms. Welcome back to the Bonafide Bookworm. I'm your host, Rachel, and I am ready to read along with you. So if you pay attention to my channel, you'll notice that I did not post like I was supposed to on the Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and then uh, I'm a one-woman show, so anything that happens on this channel is basically because I'm putting forth the effort to do it. I still need a microphone. As you can see, I'm back to filming in front of the fireplace. I didn't feel like that filming in a different location helped with the sound quality. I think it actually muffled it more, so back in front of the fireplace. Someday I will get a microphone, I swear. But back to the topic of keeping a schedule. I was thinking about that and I was really disappointed in myself, and I thought, I'm sure there's other people that try to do things and they get really disappointed in themselves too. And then I thought about Abraham Lincoln, and I thought, he failed at all kinds of things. I don't even know how much he failed at, so we'll investigate next week. But I was thinking about him, and I was even thinking about Dory from Nemo, Just Keep Swimming. And I thought, that's the only way you're going to get better at something, is if you just keep trying to do it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep on trying. So again, welcome to the Bonafide Bookworm, a YouTube channel devoted to helping you learn English by reading along. We are working on Touching the Void, the true story of one man's miraculous survival by Joe Simpson. So when we left off, they had bunkered down, I think, for the night, and we're on chapter 3. So we'll just jump right into the story. Storm at the Summit. Getting organized in the morning was a much easier business than it had been previously. We had the advantage of standing room. Yep, that's what it says. I just thought that was an odd way to start a sentence. We had the advantage of standing room when it came to rolling up care mats, packing sleeping bags, and sorting out the climbing gear that had been dropped in a tangled mess on our arrival the night before. It was my turn to lead. Simon remained inside the snow cave, belayed to a rock piton, while I gingerly stepped out of the small entrance onto the sloped ice of the gully we had ascended in the dark. The ground was unfamiliar to me. I was standing on good ice which funneled down into a narrowing curved cone below me before disappearing into the top of the tube which I had struggled so hard to get out of last night. The huge ice field, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Laid the rock, blah, blah, blah. I have to say, I feel like the grandfather in The Princess Bride, who was, he was Columbo, and I cannot think of the actor's name, very famous. That's what I feel like when I lose my place. If you've ever seen The Princess Bride and he has to try and go back and find his place, I feel like I'm just like, oh, I gotta find my place, and I'm rewinding real quick. Okay, let's see, I generally stepped out of the small entrance on the sloped ice of the gully we had ascended in the dark. The ground was unfamiliar to me. I was standing on good ice which funneled down into a narrowing curved cone, say that 5 times fast, below me before disappearing into the top of the tube, which I had struggled so hard to get out of last night. The huge ice field we had climbed yesterday was no longer visible. I looked over to my right. A short distance above me, the top of the gully reared up in a vertical cascade of ice. But over on its far side, I could see that the angle eased and there was a way up and past the cascade into another gully above. I tiptoed to the right, stopping to drive in a screw before launching up the side of the cascade. It was excellent water ice, and I enjoyed the aggressive warming work. I glanced back at the entrance of the snow cave and saw Simon peeping out, feeding the rope as I climbed. The structure of the natural cave looked even more impressive than it had last night, and I couldn't help wondering at our good fortune to have found it, for a night spent in the open at the top of the gully would have been, to say the least, uncomfortable. Above the cascade, I ran out the rest of the rope, following a snowy gully. Simon quickly joined me. Just as we thought, I said. We should reach the hanging ramp on the next pitch. He set off to the right before disappearing from the minor gully where I stood resting into the key ramp line we had seen so long ago on Sierra Norte. I reckoned that the main difficulties were now behind us, and it would be only a matter of running it out to the top of the ramp and then up the summit slopes. When I joined Simon in the ramp, I realized that our problems were not over. At the top of the ramp, we could see that there was a formidable barrier of tooth-shaped seracs with no apparent way through them. The vertical rock walls on each side of the ramp would be impossibly hard to ascend, and the seracs stretched from wall to wall without a break. Damn. Yeah, that's bad news. I wasn't expecting those. There may be an exit, I said. If not, we're stuck. Bloody hope not. It's a long way back. I looked at the nearby peaks, trying to gauge our height on the mountain. We bivvied at 800 meters last night. That's what, 19,000 feet, right? That means we have about 1,500 to go, I said. 2,000, more like. Okay, 2, but we did at least 2,500 on harder ground yesterday, so we should top out today. I wouldn't be so sure. Depends on how hard that exit is. And remember, the last bit is all flutings. I set off up the 55-degree ramp and made fast progress. We alternated leads, rarely talking to each other, concentrating on forcing the pace. Yesterday, we had used ice screws to protect each rope length, and the steep ice had slowed us down. Today we could feel the thin air taking its toll, where the easier ground enabled us to climb an almost continuous double pitch, kicking steps up the leader for 150 feet, and then up past him for the same again. I was breathing heavily as I dug through the soft surface snow to find the firm ice below. I drove in 2 ice screws and planted both axes above my stance before tying into them and shouting for Simon to come up. We were close to the Serac barrier, having climbed 1,000 feet up the ramp. I checked my watch, 1 o'clock. We had overslept, made a late start, but after 10 pitches in 4.5 hours, we had made up for it. I felt confident and at ease. We were a match for this route, and I now knew that we would finish it. I felt a thrill at the knowledge that I was, at last, on the verge of achieving a first ascent, and a hard one at that. As Simon panted up, the sun crept over the seracs at the top of the ramp and spilled bright white light down the sweep of snow below us. Simon was grinning broadly. I needed no explanation for his mood. Oh, I just made up my own line there. It says, I needed no explanation for his good humor. It was one of those moments when everything came together and there were no struggles or doubts and nothing more to do but enjoy the sensation. May as well get past the seracs and then rest. Sure, Simon agreed as he studied the barrier above. See those icicles? That's the way past. I looked at the cascade of ice, and at first I dismissed it as too difficult. It was clearly overhanging at the bottom, a leaning wall of smooth blue ice with a huge fringe of icicles dripping from its head provided the only solid surface across the otherwise powdery seracs. Yet this cascade was the only weakness that I could spot in the barrier. If we were to attempt it, we would have to climb the initial ice wall for some 25 feet and then break a way through the icicles and continue up the more reasonably angled cascade ice above. It looks hard. Yes, I'd prefer to attempt the rock first. It's loose as hell. I know, but it might go. I'll give it a try anyway. He moved some pittons, a few wires, and a couple of friends round to the front of his harness before edging left to the start of the rock wall. I was anchored firmly just below to the right of the cascade. The rock, yellow and crumbly, bordered the vertical powdery snow between the cascade and the rocky side of the ramp. I watched Simon carefully, for I knew that if he fell, it would be with the sudden violence of hand or footholds breaking away and not the gradual surrender to waning strength. He placed the camming device in a crack as high up the wall as he could, It expanded evenly into the crack with each of its 4 cams pressed hard against the rock. I guessed that it would be the rock which would break away and not the friend if Simon fell. He stepped up cautiously, testing his footholds with light kicks and hitting the holds above his head to check their looseness. He hesitated a moment, stretched against the wall, gripping the rock above him at full reach, and then began to pull himself up slowly. I tensed, holding the ropes locked in the stitch plate so that I could hold his fall immediately. And we're going to stop right there. So we are on page 43. We'll pick back up. I think today is Friday, actually. Today is Good Friday, so that's how far behind I am. So we'll pick back up on Tuesday, and I will post this today, Friday, and then we will pick back up again on Tuesday and get back on a regular Tuesday, Thursday posting schedule. That's my goal. I'm going to try to hold to it because that's what I want to do, and you just got to keep trying if that's what you want to do.